The grocery store was glowing with golden lights and Thanksgiving decorations. But to Emma, every sparkle only reminded her how far she'd fallen. Her hands trembled as she stood in front of the frozen turkey section, clutching her almost empty wallet. Her little boy, Noah, tugged at her sleeve, his eyes wide as he whispered, "Mom, can we get one this year?" Emma forced a smile, trying to sound cheerful, but her voice cracked. "Maybe next time, sweetheart." She knew there wouldn't be a next time. Her rent was due in 3 days. Her car's gas tank was nearly dry, and she hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days so her son could have enough. Behind her, the sound of cheerful shoppers filled the air, laughter, clinking carts, the rustle of full grocery bags. Emma swallowed the lump in her throat and gently pushed the cart away from the turkey display, pretending she wasn't crying. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and that one good deed can change a life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep telling stories that touch the heart. As she walked toward the checkout, a man stood near the counter, watching quietly. His name was Daniel Brooks, the CEO of the very company Emma used to work for before being laid off 2 months ago. But she didn't notice him yet. Dressed in a simple jacket and jeans, Daniel didn't look like a millionaire executive today. He was just another customer doing his Thanksgiving shopping. He had everything: wealth, success, a huge home waiting for him, but not family, not warmth. His wife had left years ago, and since then, every holiday had felt colder, emptier. He would walk through stores like this one, wondering if anyone would even notice if he disappeared. But that night, something caught his attention. A mother counting coins at the self-checkout. Her son standing beside her with a box of instant mashed potatoes and a can of cranberry sauce. Their version of Thanksgiving dinner. Daniel watched as the cashier softly said, "Ma'am, it's still $4.78 short." Emma froze, her face flushed with shame. She opened her worn-out purse again, desperately searching for coins that weren't there. Her son looked up at her with confusion and a soft, heartbreaking whisper, "It's okay, Mom. We don't need it." The people behind her began to sigh impatiently. One man muttered, "Come on, lady, some of us have places to be." Emma bit her lip, fighting tears as she removed the cranberry sauce from the counter. The total dropped just enough to go through. The cashier gave a small, pitying smile as Emma grabbed the bag and thanked her quietly, her voice barely audible. Daniel's chest tightened. He couldn't explain why, but something about that woman reminded him of his late mother, who once stood in a similar grocery store line, holding back tears as she counted pennies after his father left them. He could still remember how humiliated she looked that day. Without a word, Daniel followed Emma outside. The cold November wind whipped through the parking lot as she helped her son into their car, a rusted old sedan that coughed smoke when it started. She didn't even notice when Daniel walked up. He didn't approach her right away. Instead, he paused, watching her rest her head on the steering wheel for a long moment before wiping her tears and forcing herself to smile again for her child. That strength, that quiet determination, it broke something inside him. The next day, Thanksgiving morning, Daniel couldn't shake the image from his mind. While others were preparing feasts, he sat alone in his office, the city skyline glimmering behind him. He had more money than he could ever spend, yet not one person to share the day with. His assistant had left early to be with family, but on the edge of his desk sat something he'd noticed yesterday, a company photo from 2 years ago. And in the back row, smiling brightly, stood Emma, one of the employees who'd lost her job when he downsized the department. He remembered her name now. Emma Clark. That he picked up the phone and called HR. "Do we have an address on file for a former employee? Emma Clark? I need it for something urgent." By afternoon, Daniel found himself parked outside a small, worn-down apartment complex on the edge of town. Children's laughter echoed faintly from nearby, and a tiny paper turkey hung in the window of one of the units, drawn in crayon with the words, "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom." He knocked gently on the door. When Emma opened it, her face went pale. She recognized him instantly. The man who'd once been her boss, the CEO of the company that had laid her off. Her instinct was to apologize, to explain, to hide the half-eaten sandwich on the counter behind her. "Mr. Brooks? What are you doing here?" she asked quietly, embarrassed by the small apartment, the chipped paint, the silence that spoke louder than words. Daniel smiled softly. "I owe you something." and maybe an apology. She looked confused. An apology? He stepped aside, revealing 2 large bags of groceries and a perfectly cooked Thanksgiving turkey. I saw you at the store yesterday. You shouldn't have had to walk away like that. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes. You didn't have to. I know, he interrupted gently. But sometimes we all need a reminder that life hasn't forgotten us. That someone still cares. He placed the bags on her counter and turned to leave, not wanting to make her feel pitted. But as he reached for the door, he heard a soft voice behind him. Mr. Brooks? He turned. Emma's son stood there holding the little paper turkey from the window. Thank you for the food, sir. Mom said we'll have to share it with someone else too, because that's what Thanksgiving means. Daniel froze. The boy's words struck deep, simple, innocent, but powerful enough to pierce years of loneliness. For the first time in years, he felt something warm spread through his chest. He sat down at their small table when Emma hesitantly offered, "Would you like to stay for dinner?" That night, something changed. The tiny apartment filled with laughter, the smell of turkey, and the soft clatter of plates. It wasn't a grand feast, but it was real. Emma told stories of how she used to love working at the company, how she dreamed of getting back on her feet, of giving Noah a better life. Daniel listened, humbled. The woman he'd once overlooked turned out to be one of the strongest people he'd ever met. He silently vowed to do something about it. When he left that evening, Emma thanked him again, her eyes glistening. She had no idea that her life was about to change forever. The following Monday, Emma received a letter from the same company that had once let her go. Her hands trembled as she opened it, expecting rejection again. Instead, the letter read, "Dear Ms. Clark, we're pleased to inform you that you've been reinstated with a promotion and full benefits, effective immediately. Your strength and compassion embody everything we stand for. Happy Thanksgiving. Daniel Brooks." She covered her mouth in shock, tears streaming down her cheeks. Noah hugged her tightly. "Mom, we can buy a turkey every year now," he said joyfully. And somewhere in his office, Daniel smiled quietly to himself. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the richest man in the world because of his money, but because he'd finally remembered what it meant to give. Weeks later, Emma began her new role. Her confidence slowly returned, and her laughter, once buried under the weight of survival, began to fill the office halls. Daniel would occasionally stop by her department, never saying much, but always leaving with a small smile when he saw her thriving. He didn't expect anything in return. But on Christmas Eve, a small envelope appeared on his desk. Inside was a simple card, handwritten in neat, careful letters. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. You didn't just bring food. You brought hope." Daniel closed his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, he whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. Because sometimes, the greatest blessings don't come from boardrooms or bank accounts, but from a single act of kindness that reminds 2 lost souls they're not alone in the world.